Alright, today we're going to make a new game, Canadian Hunting Simulator.
Canadian Hiking Simulator. It's embarrassing how long it actually took me to notice that.
And this is a quick game for practice, no reason, just thought I'd make a fun little walking simulator. So we're going to be flipping a lot of assets. We don't want to take 3 months to build this. I'm going to be importing a number of assets that other people have built. I like this low poly tree pack. We're going to be doing some forest hiking. There's an animation library I'll probably use some of. I really just need a running animation. Medieval low poly pack. I think this goes well with the trees. And if I look, we've got a couple guys here who look like they might be Canadian hikers. I think that works. Also gonna want some ambient music. And of course, sound effects. Since this is Canadian Hunting Simulator, I'm thinking what better terrain to use than a map from somewhere in Canada. I'm thinking about Nova Scotia. Let's find some nice forested area in Nova Scotia. Here's a nice big national park. Let's get a look at the satellite map, see if we can't find a nice forested area. Ooh, that's all forest. This looks like a pretty interesting area. Got main road running through, rivers, lakes. Let's make sure there's some interesting topology. Yeah, it looks hilly. So my idea for this is that you'll start somewhere in the middle of the woods, and you'll have to make your way to some kind of safe zone. So for different levels, there might be a cabin, or in this case, you'll want to get to the highway, and there'll be a police car parked on the highway, and you'll be able to flag them down for help, and that's how you'll exit this level. I'm just going to grab from there to here. This is a small program that I built for a different project I was working on. Now, if I can remember how it works, I feed it the coordinates for a bounded rectangle on the map, which produces these images. I'm thinking I probably want a bit more of a square area instead of such a extreme rectangle. All right, so that looks a lot better. Now I can take this grayscale map and I can feed this into Blender. Now, let's see if I can remember how to do this. And now we want to create a grid. 1000 by 1000, is that too much? Ooh, that's a lot. It's a lot, isn't it? That might be too much. Let's redo that. So the thing is, the map is not a perfect square, so there's going to be a little bit of stretching and warping of the terrain, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's fantasy Canada. It's not real Canada. 400. I think that's plenty. It still looks really high detail. Is that too many? Is that too many vertices? Is that too many? Okay, we can always remove vertices, right? Well, I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's add a displace. We're going to add a new texture where we drag in our grayscale. Nothing's happening. I wonder if I'm doing this right. Everything moved by 1. It's okay. We've got it. There we go. Okay. Ooh, look at that. That's real voxely. Look, that's very stepped. Why is it so blocky? Yeah, I think that looks okay. Where's the highway? So to get an idea for where I want to be placing trees and things, we're going to add a material to this, and we're going to open the satellite image. There we go. Beautiful. Where's the highway? There we are. That highway is looking mighty not flat. Also, this is not a mountain. Is this a mountainous area, or is it just kind of hilly? I feel like this is a bit exaggerated here. Okay, now how big would a human be on this map? We're just gonna fake a lot of this, right? Reasonably sized. Honestly, this is looking kind of huge though. Let's get rid of this whole thing, and then we just have this be here. And so you start at a camp near the lake, and then you need to hike your way out. Well, we can fake a trail. It doesn't have to be real. We just want the map. Yeah, you just want to make your way to the car. And you don't want to get too close to the trees. And we're gonna rip that, and those can be gone. Do the same thing here. I'm not going to need to make this into a solid object, because this will be a height map. And this will be map. What was this park? Mercy River Chalet, a nature retreat called Mercy. Now, how do you export a height map? I don't actually know. But this also is still not exactly the right size. Okay. Now, how big is a person compared to this? Okay, this isn't bad. Did I choose too small of an area? Well, what if the scale weren't 200? What if it was 500? Does this look about as wide as a road would be if I were standing on a road? Because it thinks that the water is a flat area, I'm going to have to fix that. Scale. That's 0. There, good enough. Actually, we just smooth this whole thing. There, hey, look at that. That's great. Did I just run the smoother over the whole thing? Nah, we're good. This is a running speed. Yeah, it's real slow. Yeah, we'll see. I like that. I like that. Maybe you have to hike this way a bit, do a loop back a little bit, come up through here, and then like back down this way. So now, I need to go remind myself, how do I export something as a height map? We will export UV, we have UV coordinates. Add a new material, will be in Benzia Pixpal, we're gonna use that. Now, this is gonna be the bottom of the water, right? Like mud. Ooh, that looks great. Okay, there's our mud color.
I didn't have any audio for this part of the video, but here I'm just making a texture for the road and filling in the rest of the map colors.
Map's looking pretty nice for a simple forested area, and let's go, see what that does. Wait, where did I export that to? Where did I export that to? Okay, so now I have this. That's really bright. What am I gonna do about a sky? I need a sky box. Are there any default sky boxes? Why does it look so bad? If I add a light probe, I do not know how to do lighting. Alright, let's just throw this in there and see what it does. What do I do with this? Also, I would like my road to be smoother than that. I just forgot to do that. And I'm breaking everything. Z, that's less affecting everything. Move this transition a little bit. Here we go. A little bit slanted, but yeah, we're not going for perfection here. Our road is flattish. Now, I don't like this green color. It looks really bad. It doesn't look as bad in Blender. It looks bad in Godot. Maybe the problem is the color here. Benzia, linear to closest. Oh, there we go. Now I see your true colors shining through. So let's change the green. I don't like the green. Everything else looks okay. Better. And I don't want to waste a million years on it. What am I going to do with the edges of the map? I hadn't really thought about it. I might just have it fade to fog or something. I don't know. Let's also add a mesh wherever this is now. Create a new. Well, it's probably fine. It'll be blue. It's too transparent. There we go. All right, let's make that enormous. Can we do that? Can we make it enormous? Oh, look at that. Problem even there. There we go. Good enough. I actually probably call this level 1 or something. Oh, no, this was Mercy, right? Mercy. Change the name of this. Mercy. And we need, dude, we need a man in here. Okay, what does it look like if I import a tree now? That's for size, that looks okay. So am I going to place all of these behind? Because that sounds like it sucks. Yeah, it would be really good to just scatter this trees, like, randomly. Did I do that using Perlin noise? And we will call this scatter component. Yeah, don't make this too generic. We're doing, this is like game jam. I have a week. This is game jam style. I'm on vacation. I'm out in the woods. I'm inspired. Most importantly, I'm not trying to make this too extensible. I need a noise texture 2D and that's it. This also needs a reference to our map. Yep, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I'm overthinking it. Okay, this needs noise. It needs objects, assets, models, trees, conifer. Do we want all? No. Let's just do the first 5. How do I apply the textures to the trees? Worry about that after. Weights. This is not what I want to use. Nope, we can do better. We're going to use a curve. There we go. And that'll be the probability. So if we do like a random number and we get anywhere from 0 to wherever this is at, 0.7, we won't put a tree. And this will be, I guess, for each vertex. And then from here onward, so there's like a 30% chance that we might try to put a tree. Not exactly, because it still needs to get up above a certain threshold, but for values 1 to 5, it will choose one of the trees, and just depending on what the value output is from the y-axis here, it will select a tree based on that. So yeah, is it ever going to be picking? If it gets up in here, it'll pick this tree, or right down. Yeah, we'll see we'll see what happens. You're going to get a random number, then we're going to get the weight from the curve. Okay, then we want to grab the tree, then make it a child of the owner. Okay. We need a camera. Add a camera to our scene.
What happens when I run this? Crashes. Why wouldn't it? -1. But if IX is greater than 0, then we will do something. Otherwise, we will skip. So I need to set the tree based on the vertex location. That's what I didn't do. Still throwing a bunch of errors. Still only see one thing spawning in the middle. Alright, so fast forward a little, and I have spent altogether too much time on this tree scatterer. I probably should have just tried to see if someone had already made a scattering plugin online. I imagine somebody probably has at some point. But I think this looks pretty good. Let's go over a bit how it works. I have this scatter component. I'm just using a noise value to place the trees, but rather than just letting the value represent the density, which results in some weird looking kind of, you know, it's always sparse on the edges and then really completely dense on the inside. I wanted it a bit more random. So we have the noise with a threshold value. It has to be a certain amount of white before it'll place a tree. And then I just use a random number generator with a density, how likely it is to place a tree at that spot. And then the seed value, make sure it's consistent every time. Although I don't actually think this is working. If I click refresh, I think it's actually gonna move all of these trees. Yeah, so it's not perfect, but you know, whatever. I think what I'm gonna actually do, I'm not going to generate these all in real time. I'll save these all to a resource. That's what I'll do. I'll save these all to a resource, and then they'll be all loaded at runtime. I'm also going to add a mask. I haven't done this yet. I'm going to add a mask, and so then I can take a texture, and then I'll just draw, you know, we don't want trees here, we don't want trees here, we probably want fewer trees in these rocky areas. So we want to be able to just draw that right on. So I'm going to add a texture for that, and then we'll be good. There might be a better way to do this using Blender or something, but I don't know. I'm going for speed. We'll use what I know. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this from the top. Then we'll go into GIMP and we'll just draw over this with our mask. Now we want a layer that is completely white. Opaque that, and then we just need to go in and paint some of this out. But yeah, if we remove a bit here, make some clearings, sparse this out a bit, remove some chunks, definitely at the top. Here, well, that's the other side of the road anyway, so, you know, once you get to the road, you're basically safe. I think this is going to end up making it look more natural, and if it doesn't, well, live and learn, right? Now that we have the coordinate on the mask, we just get the pixel value at that image. And now we just make sure we only bother to place a tree if the mask value is true. Oh. Yeah, transparency. Okay, well, I guess, yeah, let's stick black behind there. Then we don't need the alpha channel. Mercy mask PNG. I think I need to reload this. Refresh. Does not look right. What are the width and the height if I print that out? I only need to do that once. Not do that in a loop. I am wasting way too much time on this scatterer. Multiply by width and height. Is it just no? Does it just take a normalized value and deal with it? Well, that's even worse. I'm trying to look at this and see if there's any resemblance between what I see here and what I actually see in this picture. And I see a splotch, and then a splotch, and then a splotch. But where do I see 3 splotches right here? This looks like this. And then there's a tip of something coming in over here, which would be this. For some reason, this is mapping to just a center chunk of the mask image. So maybe I'm wrong about these coordinates. Okay, so it goes from -0.5 to 0.5. It's not between -1 and 1. That makes all the difference in the world. So let's just multiply these by 2. Is it always going to work that way? Is this going to break all over the place for other places? Maybe. I don't really know. But we're doing it game jam style. It just has to work for us right now. Bruh. That is a bad way to develop. Don't copy that. That is exactly the opposite. But that is a good... That's a good. Actually, maybe I want... It's not masked. And then maybe I just want not on this. Yeah, let's do that. Does that even make sense? I don't even know. I don't know what the convention is. I guess I could look it up. Hey! We don't have trees in the lake anymore. You know what would be cool is if I could tell it to be just sparse here, not completely absent. That would be a good update to this. But no. How about no? Now what I should do, okay, now what I need to do is I need to create and clear a path. You're gonna start maybe in a cabin here. So I need to create a cabin, and there'll be something you need to get out of the woods. There'll be a little story before you start the game. We'll put some text on the screen, and we'll say, fire warning has gone up. You need to get out of the woods. There is a road nearby. Beware the trees. Stay safe. And then you'll be here. Maybe you're fishing. There is a lake, so that's cool. We'll make a little fishing block and tackle. And then we'll have a trail, like the intended path, maybe. And people can maybe make their own shortcuts. Maybe we'll put some smaller branching trails. Maybe we'll mark those paths. Maybe we won't. This is, maybe the first level. Though this game's not going to be too big, so maybe we'll only have like 3 levels. This could be like the second level. And we'll make a smaller, even easier one, just as a practice. But we're gonna have different kind of obstacles as these go. Might mark a path on the ground with like a dirt color, and you can mask out the path, but we don't want it to be too easy. So we will mask out the path mostly, and we'll leave some places where maybe you've still got some trees really encroaching on the path. Or we'll have like narrower and wider areas. Maybe we'll have areas where the path ends and you gotta kind of make your way over to a nearby path, or there'll be some other obstacle in the way or something. Let's go into Blender and color an intended path onto here. And now I had thought about making this like a decal, but that does sound like that adds complexity and development time. This thing has a bounding box. This Godot knows exactly the dimensions of this thing. I would like to be able to just grab that like as a world coordinate value. I couldn't get that. Looking pretty good though. Look at this, it looks like a real map. It's like a real game. The first game there ever was. Now one thing I've noticed here is you'll see some of the, look at this. Going over some of these areas twice and putting 2 trees in the same spot. That looks terrible. Not only is it inefficient, it looks stupid. I'll work on fixing that later. It's actually not that important. Man, these trees are real close together, yeah. This is gonna make it tough to walk as a woodsman. If you're a woodsman and you want to walk through these woods, these are some dense woods. Look how close together those are. You wouldn't be able to stay 2 meters from these trees. No way. No way you would. Still need to make a character controller. Oh man, it is currently Monday o'clock, and I am on vacation in the Canadian woods for inspiration. Now, this is like game jam styles. I hope to have this done before the end of the week, but I'm still out here camping, so I can't spend too much time doing this. That means I can't get hung up on the small details. In our Blender, we can't see where the trees are. Let's just deal with it. Yeah. Well, I would like a cabin right next to the lake here, so I'm just going to purposely smooth out the pad and then color it.
No recorded audio for this part, but this is where I updated the mask to make a path through the trees. To make it interesting, the cut path doesn't always follow the dirt path. I added some side paths, shortcuts, and dead ends to make it a challenge. And in this next bit, I was trying to add a model for the player character.
Alright, now he has eyeballs. I think we're ready to go. Add in City Dweller. Oh, he looks terrible. What the heck? Okay, so after a lot of trial and error, finally seem to have this working. Now, obviously it doesn't look like it's working, but if I tilt this guy up, he looks fine. Now, I don't know 100% why I'm bothering with all this, because actually I think this I'm going to use a first-person view. I probably actually don't even want the full body of a human, and I'm just realizing that now. As it stands though, I finally got the color working, and don't really want to deal with lighting for this. I'm going to try to change the material just to make it unlit or unshaded. No. Looks horrible. Okay, we need to do something. Looks fine. The toon shading looks fine. I think I'll just leave that. Now, we're going to need to add some animations. Now, I saw this universal animation library. What the hell am I supposed to do with this? This is so overkill. This is a first-person game. Do I need to do any of this? Why is there always one giant thing down here? I don't... What's that for? Doesn't matter. We need a basic walk, run, jump, you dash, and actually are probably never gonna see this guy's upper body. We just need arms, and we don't even need legs, right? First person usually there's just arms. Do we even need arm? Maybe we don't even need a character. Let's assume we don't need a character. Let's create a placeholder. Well, we want to see something on the map. Beautiful. So we need a pretty basic player controller. Now I've just stolen all of the code for the character controller from Lightspeed. I'm just going to tweak it because we're not on a 3D sphere. It doesn't need all of that. Let's simplify things a bit. I also don't have any of my custom gravity code, so we can get rid of that stuff too.
Again, no audio here. I added a simple cabin, and I also modeled the interior of the cabin since the free asset didn't come with one.
I put a camera on the player, but we don't have any collision on the world. Also, I changed my mind. I decided not to use the controls from Lightspeed, and I'm gonna set up a character body. It comes with a default setup, so this should get us going. Pretty sure we've changed the landscape since we exported this originally. To update the collisions, I need to export this as an OBJ again. I need to tell Godot that the OBJ represents a collision mesh. I did see a shortcut way to do that, but I don't remember how. And rather than look it up, I'm just gonna mess around and hope that I stumble upon it. Static body, collision polygon or collision shape? And the collision shape will be this OBJ. I think that doesn't like that. Okay, height map shape. Can that be an OBJ? Okay, let's create a mesh instance and stick the OBJ onto there. Okay, like that. And then let's create a collision shape out of it. Okay, so that's a tri-mesh. That's probably not the most performant. I probably want a height map, right? Can I not just export a height map from Blender? Mesh instance, that's just the lake. That's fine. Are we gonna add swimming? No, we'll just add a gurgle noise and then he'll die. Yeah, if you jump into the water, you die. Or, that's how you escape the fire. No, you die. You don't know how to swim. That makes it easier. Alright, Google's telling me I need to export it as a PNG. That sounds stupid, so let's see what else. Well, what is a height map? It's an array, right? It's an array of points. But if I do try to make it a PNG, does it take that? It does not take that.
So the OBJ, when it's attached to a mesh instance 3D, is represented by an array mesh. So if I take the value of the array mesh and convert it to a packed float 32 array, then I should be able to use this mesh data as the height map.
Tri-mesh it is. Change of plans. Get out of here with your cleverness. You ain't clever. Mesh. Collision shape. Woohoo! Look at that. Oh, look at that. A real game. I can jump. So I think what's going on here with the overlapping trees, there's more than one kind of logical location that just gets snapped into the same grid position. So when it iterates over it twice, it puts two trees on that position. Something to that effect, I think, is what's going on here. Our cabin needs collision. Static body, collision shape, a box. Draw on another collision shape. There are no triangular shape. Now if I play the scene, I shouldn't be able to walk through it. I've got to move and I've got to jump. Really, that's all I need. That's all I need for a game. Move and jump. I don't think I can sprint. There's no sprint. That would be easy to add. You can add a sprint. What I really want is a kind of a dash jump. So what I'm going to put in here, obviously I'm going to have mouse controls for looking around, but I want to add a movement mechanic where you do a crouch jump to get a kind of a dash, and then as long as you keep doing hops, really well-timed hops, you can maintain your speed. Otherwise, there's a cooldown on the dash. And that way, there's at least a little bit of movement mechanic that a person can become experienced with, and, you know, maybe if you were really good, you could basically outrun the fire. And then that adds an extra kind of a skill element to the game, whereas otherwise you're just trying to avoid trees. So you want to add a bit of an excitement, a bit of fun. So we want to set up, right now I'm just arrow keying, we want to set up WSD movement, and we want to set up mouse controls. Ideally we would have fully mappable controls, but that sounds like a full game kind of feature. Look over there, it kind of looks realistic with the way that the trees are not on the rocks there. Like it's a real place. No collision on these trees, no collision on the water. And yeah, I did abandon the Lightspeed rigid body player controller. So now we're using a character body 3D controller. So that's no physics-based movement. So the character body 3D already comes with what you just saw. The good thing about it is that the Godot character body 3D still detects collisions and prevents phasing through collision objects. I could be wrong here, but I think like in Unity, or at least the 2D in Unity, from what I remember,
if you're dealing with kinematic movement, you need to do your own ray casting to prevent phasing through things if you're taking direct control of the movement that way. In Godot, there's like a move and collide or a move and slide. Yeah, so it does this move and slide. Okay, so you don't directly set the position, but you set the velocity and then call move and slide. So then this is sort of the secret sauce, magic flavoring, your mom's home cooking, Santa Claus is coming to town function, where it lets you do the direct velocity manipulation, take full control of the character, but you still get collisions. And not only do you get collisions, you get a nice, like if you hit a hill, you'll slide along it. If you hit a wall and you're not, directly perpendicular movement, you'll slide along it. And that is just, it's so nice that that's just taken care of. So in here, the speed, we'll tweak this, the jump velocity, it's maybe fine, maybe make it a bit higher. But we're gonna add a crouch, we're gonna add a crouch, so basically it'll be like a crouch jump, and that'll be your dash. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Should there be a sprint? Yeah, why wouldn't you be able to sprint though? So if you have a walk and a run, and then your crouch dash obviously has to be faster than just sprinting. And then maybe you get an even bigger speed boost if you do a sprint into a crouch dash and it's all timed perfectly. Maybe. That sounds like a lot to implement. But definitely, we'll have a crouch dash, moving forward, crouch jump. We'll give you a little dash that's faster than a sprint with a cooldown, unless you continue hopping along and then you maintain your momentum. And maybe it's just, should it be harder to turn? Well, your velocity is not going to directly update, right? So if you're heading in one direction and you turn, yeah, it'll be fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be fun. So I'm going to clean some of this up. I'm going to add some extra stuff. And then when that's all done, we'll take another look.